The Museum Society of Mumbai. I welcome you all. Today we have a very interesting lecture by Shivendra Singh Dungarpur. I met him a couple of years ago in one of the museum events. And for the first time, somebody turned up all of a sudden and started talking about film restoration, preservation. I had absolutely no idea. And then asking me at least 10 to 15 questions, whether you consider film as cultural heritage, and what do we do with the film, old film, and how do we preserve? Our government not taking much interest, and this is one area people have absolutely no idea. When they see the film, they enjoy, but they don't know what they lost. It was Shivendra who enlightened me what we lost in early 20th century. He said, you know, Mr. Mukherjee, except 2 or 3 black and white films, everything we lost. The silent era, the early part of 20th century. And that was the time I started reading some, articles on film preservation, on film restoration, and particularly the cellulose nitrate film base. That was the time, early 20th century, and it continued till 1990s. And then all of a sudden we switched over to digital technology. And he was the one who was approaching practically everyone, visiting Ministry of Culture, Film Division's office, museums, NGOs, a strong desire to do something for the city, for the heritage, not happy at all with the Film Division Pune archive. He said, they are destroying, they are not enough trained. They don't know how to preserve, and this is one area we have to do something. And it was his initiative, bringing Christopher Nolan and Tacita Dean. They came, they spent 3 days. It was his initiative bringing 35, 40 creative people at one spot and talking about the need for film conservation. Film preservation, restoration in the widest sense, preservation nowadays assures that a movie will continue to exist in as close to its original form as possible. Although institutional practices of film preservation date back to the 1930s, the field received an official status only in 1980, not before 1980. Nobody knew about the film as an art. But it was in 1980, for the first time, UNESCO recognized moving images as an integral part of the world's cultural heritage. And that was my study when I started digging up little. Where is the status of film in cultural heritage? Whether film was recognized by UNESCO, and then we found in 1980, UNESCO recognized. Before 1980, there was no official recognition. The great majority of films made in the silent era are now considered lost forever. And according to Shivendra, in Indian context, only 2 or 3, Shivendra?
Yeah, in terms of complete films, we only have about three, 4, and in terms of fragments, about 15. So, complete films, probably 2, 3. I don't think there's really a single complete film from the silent era.
So it's a tragedy that we lost our heritage, our cultural heritage. And the stories he was sharing with us, how he retrieved some of the films from Chor Bazaar, from somebody's garage, that things are kept in the garage, in a boxes, in a neglected condition, and how he restored. So that was something inspired us, and we felt that it's time to do something as a cultural institute, inviting Shivendra and his organization, Film Heritage Foundation, to participate in museum education program. He was kind enough to organize 2 workshops for children, because we wanted to reach out to children. We wanted children to know and understand the value of film heritage. So when he organized the program in April, inviting Christopher Nolan, and that was quite a scene. Mumbai started talking about film heritage for the first time. All leading newspapers started talking about film heritage. Never before March 2018, I noticed one single article talking about the need for film heritage. But the moment, the Christopher Nolan, the involvement of Tashita, everyone started talking about. And it was his initiative, involving people, involving organization, enlightening people, and asking everyone to do something. In our country, everyone, switching over to digital technology, and no one using this technology. He got the film producer, the film manufacturer, Kodak. It was Kodak. The managing director, the CEO, and asking them to ensure that if there is a need, you can provide, the film. They are not easily available in the market. But if there is a market, you can supply. So that was, his efforts. And then on other hand, whatever we have, whatever we inherited, how do we preserve? In most of the cases, this is something, I wanted to share with you. For many years, I could not. But it's time to share. It's people, not the government. People preserves cultural heritage. So we have to take initiative. Very little initiative we see on part of the government when it comes to preservation of cultural heritage. So how do we support, people, NGOs, taking initiative, coming up with new idea, giving them space, giving them support, and preserving our cultural heritage. Today, Shivendra will be talking more about, the need for preservation of film heritage. And he said it's a cultural necessity. And that is something I also realized genuinely. It's a cultural necessity. And we all have to work together. I don't want to take much of your time, but the whole intention of inviting Shivendra to share his experience, his ideas with the friends of museum, sensitize people. So next time, when you look at any film, when you look at black and white, you think and you feel that it is an integral part of our cultural heritage. And we have a responsibility. We have to do something. Now may I request my colleague Prasanna Mangulkar to formally introduce Shivendra. Thank you, Shivendra, for accepting our invitation. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee. It's my pleasure to get an opportunity to introduce Mr. Shivendra Singh Dungarpur. He is an award-winning Indian filmmaker, producer, film archivist, and restorer. He established Dungarpur Films in 2000 and has directed and produced almost 600 commercials, corporate films, short films, television serial, and documentaries under his banner. Over the years, he has won innumerable awards for his work in advertising. Dungarpur is passionately committed to film preservation and restoration. He has collaborated on 2 world-class restoration projects with Martin Scorsese, World Cinema Foundation, Uday Shankar's classic film Kalpana, and eminent Sri Lankan filmmaker Dr. Lester James Pearce's film Nidhaya, that premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in 2012 and Venice Film Festival in 2013 respectively. He was a donor for the restoration of Hitchcock's silent film The Lodger that was done by the British Film Institute. May I now request Mrs. Aarti Mehta, the senior-most member of Museum Society of Mumbai, to felicitate Mr. Dungarpur on behalf of all of us. Former chairperson of Museum Society of Mumbai. Thank you, Mrs. Mehta. Mr. Dungarpur, please.
Wonderful to see so many people. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee, for giving me this opportunity to speak for the cause of film and our moving image heritage. And I'm particularly happy that the talk is in one of the best museums we have in Mumbai. It's really an honor for me to be here. And I can say it with a lot of pleasure because film, to reach to a museum stage, has taken a lot of effort. And I'm very thankful to you, Mr. Mukherjee. I'm often asked why I needed to start a foundation to save film. Do films need to be saved at all? With 1 million versions available across every possible media, surely films will survive in some form or the other. You don't need a foundation to do this. Many leading filmmakers in the country, in all their earnestness, have said to me that their films are preserved on YouTube, iCloud, DVDs, hard disks. You can just name the various versions which they are available. More fundamentally, I am sort of asked, are films important enough in the larger scheme of things that need attention to warrant this kind of time, energy, and money to save them for posterity? In a country which is, obsessed with cinema, there are very few, including the film industry, who feels that the films are really worth saving for future generations. Now, when we talk about film, the immediate association is Bollywood, business, mass entertainment. We only see the commerce side to it and fail to see the art in it. But what about the documentaries? What about the experimental films? What about the short films, the newsreels, the propaganda, the television series, home movies? Aren't they all part of our film heritage? Unfortunately, given the stranglehold that popular cinema has over our public imagination, we tend to forget that moving image was one of the greatest innovations of the 20th century. It not only changed our perception, but gave us an ability to reflect ourselves and be seen in that reflection. We began to live in that imagery. As my friend and great visual artist, Tacita Dean, put it so beautifully in her petition to save film, film is the Rosetta Stone of our time. Rabindranath Tagore, when he discovered this art, he clearly saw the art in this medium. He said, his wonderful quote I remember because he was part of the you can call him that he shot that film, but more importantly, he was involved in shooting a film called Natir Puja in 1931. And he said, when he saw this, this quote was given when he was with B.N. Sarkar, the founder of New Theatres, and Nitin Bose, who was the cameraman of that film, that the principal element of a motion picture is the flux of images. The beauty and the grandeur of this form in motion has to be developed in such a way that it becomes self-sufficient without the use of words. I believe that the expected emergence of cinema as an art form is yet to take place. This great poet, thinker, and artist had no doubts about this great artistry and unique language of the moving image. But nearly a century later, film is still fighting for it to be accepted as an art form. We believe that film is an art form that is an integral part of our social and cultural fabric, yet we have to fight for the audiovisual medium to be considered as part of our heritage. Is film to be damned because it also entertains? In this scenario, it is not surprising that the film is complete absent, from all our museums in India. Around the world, museums like Museum of Modern Art, Smithsonian, the Imperial War Museum, the universities like UCLA, Harvard, Yale, to name a few, have outstanding film collections. And by that I don't mean a DVD shelf. By that I mean film with their actual celluloid vaults, where they have their own vaults, they have their own archivists, regularly curate programs. In India, there are fantastic documentaries and experimental films made by our leading artists, activists, independent filmmakers that are celebrated internationally, but have no platforms in our country. Many of these films are shot on celluloid, and these collections which should be maintained and showcased by the museums too. I recently, Mr. Humu Khushu Khan is here, we discovered Dr. Salim Ali's films. They were kept at the BNHS, and just to show how important the great ornithologist films are. Now, do you call that an entertainment? Do you call this a form that they should be neglected just because it's film? The general perception of people is it's film, it's got to do with Bollywood, why should anybody else be interested? Let's document that. But thanks to the BNHS now, we are hoping to work in rescuing these films, even though they are in a terrible condition. But as we go along the lecture, we will be showing you how we've been able to rectify or restore some of the collections of films which we have received from other places. But here's a great example of one of the great ornithologists' great work right from the early 30s, 40s, 50s of bird collections, which you would have lost had we not been able to rescue this. Well, our father of a nation was of a view that cinema was a social evil. I mean, I know that the museum at the Films Division, they're dedicating it to Gandhi. Mr. Mukherjee, you were there in that museum. Mr. Shyam Benegal and I said, it should be film on Gandhi, not Gandhi on film. But, K. Abbas's letter, which I have put up here, as you know, K. Abbas, the well-known Indian filmmaker, and Amrit is here, who can always correct me, Amrit, if I'm going wrong in any way. But he wrote a letter to Mahatma Gandhi in the October issue of Film India. To whom shall we, the sons of India, go for consolation and guidance but to you, with whom we have come to love and honor like a father? Today I bring for you the scrutiny and approval, a new toy of my generation that has learned to play with cinema. In recent statement, you include cinema among evils like gambling, horse racing, which you like to banish. In view of this great position you hold in this country, and I must say in the world, even the slightest expression of your opinion carries much weight with millions of people. I have no doubt that a large number of conservative and orthodox persons in the country will be confirmed in their hostile attitude towards cinema after reading your statement. There must be some great evil in cinema if the Mahatma does not approve it, they would say. And one of the world's most useful innovations would be allowed to be discarded. Ironically, even today in the Indian Constitution, cinema is mentioned under Section 62, 7th schedule of the state list, which deals with taxes on luxuries, amusements, betting and gambling. As a matter of fact, current Indian laws dealing with cinema focuses only on censorship and taxation. And that's been also the interest of the film industry. Whenever you talk to them, they are more interested in censorship. Well, we celebrated a century of cinema 5 years ago, but were pioneers like Dadasaheb Phalke, Hiralal Sen, Babu Rao Painter, V. Shantaram, to name Bimal Roy, Guru Dutt, Raj Kapoor, the list can go on. Not artists whose work must not be preserved. You know, if I show you images of three, I mean, there are very few of this generation who would be recognized, I know, who would be able to recognize who these people are. Are these to be all forgotten, all these images? If you look at a film like Kagaz Ke Phool, India's first CinemaScope film, directed by Guru Dutt, when it was first released, the film was not successful at the box office. It was only in the 1980s it started being viewed again at film societies, and interest in Guru Dutt revived. A film may be released at a particular time, but it is viewed differently at different times. And it is this timeless quality of cinema that makes it so important for us to preserve films. Because you don't know how a film will be viewed 50 years from now. For instance, the Fearless Nadia films made by the Wadia Movietone were actually looked upon as C-grade stunt films when they were made. But today they're considered classics. I mean, you see T-shirts, you see everything. Fearless Nadia has become like a household name. A film has to be preserved in order that people will find new values in the film in another time. But why do we look so back? Let's look at, I had a call from my friend Kiran Rao, and she said that Mansoor Khan is celebrating his 25th celebrations for Qayamat Se Qayamat Tak. But we don't have anything left. We have a DVD for sure. So should we show the DVD for the anniversary? And I was shocked. And very soon, my guru, Gulzar Saab, called me and he said, they want to show marches at IFFI. But again, we only have a DVD. Where do we find a print of marches? So as we continue to churn out films at an incredible rate, we not care for the ones that came before. While shooting Celluloid Man, it's a film which I made in 2012. I wanted to, actually, that was the film which really made me discover what really happened to a lot of my films. And I was walking, I was taken to the suburbs. There was an agent who took me there, and it was in Pathanwadi, a slum in Mumbai, and I was taken by my guide, and his name was called Bipin Silver. And he took me to a place where the films are going to die. Bipin Silver has earned his name from the choice of livelihood, extracting silver from the black and white films. He has brought me here on one condition: he will not come in front of the camera. I ducked down through the narrow door of a tin shed, and a door leads to another room, and you see piles of 16 and 35 mm film cans, all waiting for their funeral. I watch in fascinated horror as a thin old man systematically stripped these films bare of silver, which are like memories, leaving translucent white strips and nothing on that film strip. So what is a film worth in terms of silver? Bipin says he strips 1,000 kgs of films in one go. 50 films stripped bare to give you 3 kgs of silver. As a silver scavenger, his personal preference, of course, is nitrate, because it's got more silver in nitrate films. And he's been doing this for the last 40 years. And I'm going to show you a clip which is going to give you that experience. So being
60 mm, वो पूरी पिक्चर आएगी 4-5 हज़ार रुपये की, और ऐसा 100 रील लेने जाओ तो 200-300 रुपये की 100 रील है, और 35 mm है ना, वो केजी के हिसाब से 100 रुपीज़ केजी.
As a child, my summer would be spent watching films with my grandmother. She would often book this entire cinema hall, and we would sit on the ground floor in the stalls. And I would be sitting right behind her, and we would watch films after films. I still remember those beautiful, colorful sets of Pakiza, Meena Kumari performing Inhi Lagone. And then from Calcutta, my grandfather would often bring these 16 mm black and white prints of Devdas, Dobi Ka Zameen, Bandhani, and some of Raj Kapoor films. I remember singing to the songs of Shri 420, Ramaiya Vasta Bhaiya. And here I am now, surrounded by film cans and films. The images I grew up watching, being washed away and turned into silver or colored bangles.
You know, growing up, I always thought film would last forever. Somehow, one never felt that these images that seem so much larger than life on screen evoked such powerful emotions, actually had such a fragile existence. And as a filmmaker, you know, one is so engrossed in the craft of cinema that one tends to forget how ephemeral the life of our creators are, that they need to be preserved. Like all filmmakers, we are so engrossed in the world of creation that we forget that what we create is completely not our creation, but borrowed from life. And what is this life? It's you and I. It's people like us. For me, the cinema has been always the reflection of who we are and where we came from. And in order to look at the future, one has to look at the past. Unless we know where we came from, we won't know where to go and who we are. We have a lovely quote from Manny Faber, which she says, "Every movie transmits the DNA of its time." So what is this magic of cinema that we all love? Those beautiful images projected onto a screen, say the interpretation of life projected onto the screen. I remember being fascinated as a child with my grandfather's collection of Chaplin films. You know, every evening he would show me on his 8mm or a 16mm projector a Chaplin film, and I would be sitting next to the projector watching Chaplin film upside down through the projector lamp gate. But actually when you put the film through, it's always upside down, and when it's projected up, you see it right. And I was fascinated. Where did this image come from? Cinema was magic to me at the age of 5, and it continues to be magical for me even today. I still remember when I watched my first film, I cried. I couldn't believe the reality or the life around me being played on screen in this dark hall where the only light was streaming in from the projector. In the words of one of my favorite filmmakers, Jean-Luc Godard, cinema is not an art that films life. Cinema is something between art and life. Unlike painting and literature, cinema both gives to life and takes from it. And the journey of Indian cinema, of course, began with, we all know from Dadasaheb Phalke's Raja Harishchandra on May 3, 1913. It was originally released as a 4-reel film, 3,700 feet long. Phalke advertised the film as a performance of 57,000 photographs, a picture 2 mile long, all for 3 annas. Today's Phalke's wonderful 2 mile long film, only 1 mile remains. And if you really look at the statistics of 1,700 silent films were made in India, which the National Film Archive have about 5 or 6 complete films, 10 to 12 fragments. Maybe now there are 15 fragments. The film industry in Madras made 124 films and 38 documentaries in the silent era. Only one survives, Martand Varma, which is a Malayalam film, 1931. By 1950, we had lost 70 to 80% of our heritage. It's just, we've lost so much of it. Many early nitrate fires. Some of the reasons I'm going to give you is early before the 1950, most of the films were made on celluloid nitrate, and after the 51, you had the film started being made on safety film, which is celluloid acetate, and celluloid acetate had problems of vinegar syndrome, and then came in polyester. But the early silent films, right up to 51, were made in a very flammable kind of a stock. Many of you who may have seen films in those days, you would often have during projection fires, which was called nitrate fires. The film would get heated up and it would blow up, and suddenly in the middle of the film you could see
a big destruction of the film. And the story goes, as told to me by Nair Saab, that Phalke, the version which we have 1913, is not the 1913 version, because Raja Harishchandra, Phalke was taking it in a bullock cart and it caught fire and the film got burned. And he had to reshoot the entire film in 1917. And that's the version we have. And out of that version also we only have 2 reels, the first and the last reel. The second and third is missing. The only complete film we have of his is Kalya Mardan, so which is 1919. Well, you had major nitrate fires. The great B.N. Sarkar of the New Theatre, Calcutta, he had a major fire in his studios in New Theatre, where they lost a whole lot of film. As early as 2002, in the FTII, there was a fire which we lost some of the great Prabhat films, including the rare silent films, the original negatives of Raja Harishchandra and Kalya Mardan that P.K. Nair had collected from the Phalke family. 1940s, we've had Ranjit movie tone. The story goes that Chandulal Shah was losing heavily in the races, and Indian cinema lost about 150 films because he put fire to those films. We don't know what the story is true, but the fact is that we lost some of the most important films. Among the films lost were popular matinee star Sehgal's debut film, Bhakt Surdas, as well as Holi by Kardar. Now, there is, of course, the nitrate fires, which is one of the reasons, or the vinegar syndrome, which developed in the 50s right till the 70s. But it was the climatic conditions which were not ideal either for preserving films. You know, India's film industry developed, interestingly, in 3 major colonial port cities of Bombay, Madras and Calcutta, where the high humidity levels did its own damage, as most of the producers stored their films in their labs or warehouses with absolutely no proper storage facilities. The usual practice for producers was to pay an annual deposit fee to a lab to keep the original camera negative of the film. However, if the film was not successful, the producers would stop paying the deposit fee, resulting in the lab dispatching the print to a forgotten old warehouse. I'm going to show you a clip which is one of my favorite stories, which I actually took P.K. Nair to Jyoti Studios. Jyoti Studios is where Kennedy Bridge, very close by. Many of you must be passing Jyoti Studios, not realizing that the first sound film, Alamara, was shot there. And P.K. Nair, of course, went there in the hope, when the National Film Archive was built, to be able to get the first sound film, Alamara. And he went, and I took him many years later during the making of Celluloid Man to recollect the entire story of how he met Adishar Irani and his son. And this is the clip which we are going to show. So if you can show the clip, yeah.
When I was assisting Gulzar Saab, he told me a story that when he was assisting Bimal Roy in Kabuliwala, Wazir Muhammad Khan, who acted in that film, used to often speak about singing the first ever song sung in the history of Indian cinema, De De Khuda Ke Naam, in the film Alamara. Unfortunately, nothing remains of the song except the story.
This is a place I came way back in the 60s. I think it was 66 or 67. Mainly to meet Ardeshir Irani, the father of Indian talkie. I wanted to meet him personally to see whether we could get hold of some reels of Alamara, the first Indian talkie, Right from the beginning when the archive started. One of the films we were clearly, eagerly looking forward to acquire was definitely Alamara. I went in and saw him sitting in the front of a big table, and nearby standing was his son Sapurji. So I told him about the archive and what we were trying to do and our keen interest in preserving Alamara. He said a couple of reels must be lying somewhere here, though not the whole film. And of course he offered a lot of old glass negatives of the Imperial films and whatever material they have in the studio, and kept it. He has asked his son to hand it over to us. When we were walking down the steps, Sapurji was also with me, and he himself confessed that I myself have disposed of the 3 reels which my father mentions after extracting silver from it. It's a kind of a confession from the son of the great pioneer.
Yep. So on my visit to the NFAI, one of these rare visits which I have now, I noticed a huge pile of film cans lying in the basement near Waltz. And I was very curious to know where these films came from. And Kiran Diwar, my dear old friend right from my institute days, who's also the film preservation officer, he told me an interesting story about how the Indian railways have been unwitting contributor to the film archiving in India. Often after film has had its own run at the box office, producers find themselves with several prints in those days. Not knowing what to do, they put them onto trains with no destinations marked on them. They know that if the prints are unclaimed, as per the law, it is in the Indian Railways' responsibility to deal with them. This is how thousands of orphan cans found their way to the NFAI, courtesy the railways. Well, but we couldn't find Alamara in that. Yeah. Well, the advent of television in the 70s, saw producers scrambling to look for their film cans as they realized there was still money to be made out of these old films. But for many, it was too late. People are now talking about the death of celluloid. For me, this is really an emotional topic. As I grew up watching films on celluloid, the sound of the projector, the flicker, the smell of the film, the magic of, rushing in and trying to sit on a seat so that I can get the correct projection, the unevenness of the film, the fact that what you see is all kind of marks, the changeover, the reels. But I have to accept the reality that even though I continue to shoot on celluloid, cinema is all about technical innovation. First it was black and white, then came sound, then came color. People were shooting different formats, different cameras, different stocks. Now it's the age of digital technology. But does that mean celluloid no longer has a place in the world? A couple of months ago, Film Heritage Foundation, we presented a 3-day event titled Reframing the Future of Film with acclaimed director Christopher Nolan and celebrated visual artist Tacita Dean to change the adversarial narrative of film versus digital. The event was to speak a language of coexistence, where each medium has its own specificity and therefore one needs to negate the other. We spoke about the photochemical film and digital in their respective spaces as shooting and exhibition and preservation medium. And there are differences, but it is clear that we need both options to exist. The advent of the digital era has made it possible for us to today restore films and to see them the way they have been on the day they were released. I want to show you statistics of the shift between celluloid and digital. And you can see right till 2012, in fact 2014, we were still making about 275. But just look at how many films we are, the censor, this is the figures given by the censor board. How many films they are censoring? 10,000 films a year, which beats Hollywood, which only does 700 to 800. 10,000 films is what we are censoring, which includes short films, big films, every kind. But till 2014, we were still shooting on celluloid. Theaters were still equipped on celluloid. And within the span of 4 years, it looks like celluloid was some century years old. India has turned its back on celluloid in a definite drift towards digital technology. But contrary to the popular opinion, this surprisingly recent development, we continued to shoot on film till 2014. So what happens to all those millions of reels of celluloid film that is in the storehouse of our film heritage? Are they to be abandoned, forgotten, as we blindly believe that digital technology has all the answers? We sort of believe that. Archivists and filmmakers all over the world will tell you the importance of original camera negative, that a film which is shot on celluloid is still worth its weight in gold. In India, the popular misconception among filmmakers, copyright holders, industry stakeholders, is that digitization makes the original camera negative obsolete. Labs are shutting down all over the country, discarding film cans on street. As producers are not interested in taking possession of their films, none of the Indian laboratories engaged in film restoration have photochemical facilities. Producers, copyright holders, public at large are quite satisfied with basic digital restoration at a low cost, poor quality DVDs, and accessing it on YouTube. Now, I'm going to show you a figure which all over the world with happened, which I'm part of the FIAF, and we did a lot of research to reach to this figure. This is the lifespan of different media. A CD and a DVD has a lifespan of only 3 to 5 years. Hard disk, 6 years maximum. Farhan Akhtar told me that for Dil Chahta Hai, they had 40 hard disks. And luckily for them, when they opened all the 40, they had to throw away everything because nothing was there. They had to go back to a different source and redo the whole film up. So that's the way of hard disk. LTO is what your films which are now made on DCPs, they are preserved on LTO. That means LTO is linear tape open. It is the safest method today in India to preserve anything which includes photographs or anything which you have important documents. Hard drive is not the answer, it's the LTO. Then you have magnetic storage. But you look at celluloid. You have a Lumiere film, you have a Falke film, you save it, you can still go back to a scanner and scan it. The problem with the other technology is that it's changing so constantly that you may have an equipment. I'll give you a very interesting example. Mayank Shekhar came with me with a film on a DLT tape, which is a digital linear open, saying Annie gives it those ones. I don't know whether you heard of it. Pradeep Kishan and Arundhati Roy made a film called Annie Gives It Those Ones. And they want to screen it, and there is nothing available, not even a film, nothing. Doordarshan had transferred it in a digital format called DLT. Now DLT in India, nobody has. Nobody has. But I just had to send one mail to Switzerland, and they had all the answers there. So in digital technology, you're constantly changing so quickly that you will feign to find answers until you have all the equipment saved every time. And digital preservation not only presents a number of challenges within the industry, and our industry has no answers. Once the film is digitized, it doesn't mean that you just lock up the tape or hard drive, and when you access it years later, you just have to plug and play. There is the challenge of failure of hard drive, the obsolescence of both hardware and software, corruption of data, the need for constant migration to new technologies. But a reel of celluloid, if preserved in proper condition, has proven a longevity of over 100 years. There is also a general lack of understanding about what you mean by restoration or what it means to restore a film. A full-fledged film restoration just goes beyond digital scanning and cleaning. The approach is same as restoring a piece of art or a manuscript. The task of restoration involves studying the film, its production history, understanding the filmmaker's vision or his limitations, knowing the work of the cinematographer, the art director, the costume designer, all of which contribute to making the right choices and adhering to the intention of the film's creator. Gathering all existing film and non-film sources is the next crucial step of the restoration process from around the world. And we have noticed that when we get a film, most people want to make it the way it was shown today. If a filmmaker has kept a certain grain, I mean, it'll be unfair for me to do a Mrinal Sen film where the cameraman or some of the great camera like Subbara Mitra or V.K. Murthy or a whole lot of them have used a certain grains and certain ways to keep a certain look, and you want to keep it a HD quality, all looking the same, and you just come here, you have a new colorist, and you just make it look new. That's not what restoration is. Restoration is restoring it to the level that when the film was screened in the 70s or the 80s, keeping the elements of that time so that it looks still of that time, but you've restored it to that level that people can connect with that film. I have an example of And I'm going to be showing two examples, or talking about two very important examples. One is, of course, Mogacho Ando, and second is Apu Trilogy. Mogacho Ando, a friend of mine, a filmmaker, Badroy Barreto, he walked into the Film Heritage Foundation office and he handed over to me, wrapped in a newspaper, the first Konkani film in 1950. Now, what is important about this is that this film was made during the Portuguese time in Konkan, in Goa. And the next film was made only in 1960, which was when the Indians were ruling it. And we'll just show you the condition of the film. This is how he brought me I had to unwrap it. You can see the condition of this film, 1950. And this was directed by a great director called Braganza. And it was released in April 24, 1950 in Mapusa and few theatres in Bombay. And what we did was that we took it through, the reel was stuck, wrapped, dry, and we did manual work in the lab where we had to take it through different processes of drying, also hydration, rehydration, all those kind of things. And after we were able to do that, including camphor treatment, which you can see, we took it to a scanner, and you see, we've been able to save it, which was a remarkable thing. And when we showed it to the actress of this film, she called her children and said, "Now you believe I acted in a film." Because there was nothing else surviving. But if you see the state of what it was, if I just take you back to that image, Zara, if you can take it back to the reel, you won't believe, from here. Would you believe that this could be saved? Even I didn't know. I had to train in Italy to do that. But this became my obsession. So my filmmaking career was very important. I still continue to make films. But what I became obsessed with, how I can save these films. How I can save when people say, it's in this bad condition, let's throw it away. And I'll tell you, nobody pays for this kind of stuff. Nobody's paid me for this. Nobody continues to pay me. It is the fact that we need people to come forward to help to save, because can you imagine the first Konkani film, how important historically it is? And it was a social thematic film. People have forgotten. People have forgotten those actors. And she lives in Bombay, this actress. And when we took the film to her, and she was so delighted, and she came from Portugal, she had that background, but she was so delighted to see it. I'm going to show you Apu Trilogy, which I was involved with, which we restored, which Criterion and the Academy restored. Now, that was a very miraculous thing. Everybody knows about Apu Trilogy, Pather Panchali. We are known for them. They can't be any better director in India like Satyajit Ray. What happened with these negatives are that they were kept many years later. Ray was very worried that what will happen to these films. So James Ivory and Ismail Merchant took these negatives off and kept them at the lab at Henderson. And funnily, the Henderson lab had a huge fire. And if you go back to that reel, the first image, Zara, and you can see that it got burnt on the sides, Pather Panchali, Aprajito, and Apur Sansar. And we had to do the same kind of work the Criterion had to do with the Academy. The burned negatives, you can see, were repaired. Just one side before that. So you can see the repair of the negatives. So each negative was repaired, and it was done frame by frame. And then the image was copied, so that you get a full image to be able to do it. And there were cuts like that on Apu Trilogy, which was and this was used using digital mediums to repair that. And you can see the shake and everything as compared to the famous scene of the train coming from Pather Panchali, one of the most beautiful scenes of the film. They were restored back even after we copied it, and Pather Panchali after restoration. So here's a case where the negatives were completely burned, but we were able to still recover it. The restoration was done by Academy and the Criterion Collection. They released the DVDs. In fact, they made prints and they released it theatrically in the US, where it did commercially very well. So if a film which is, if it is presented well, if it's done a good job, I'm sure there'll be a huge audience to go and see it. But it all depends on that. I'll Zara jump to straight away. You know, the country has, we nearly have 10 different film industries, and we produce the largest number of films in the world, with 4 major South Indian film industries, which account to, the South India accounts for nearly 60% of our total film production. Interestingly, mega stars of these industries went on to head governments in the state, but did nothing for the cause of preserving the cinematic heritage. As far as the statistics of 2016 and 17, we are producing films in 45 languages now. Yet we just have one archive, which is the National Film Archive in Pune, and Film Heritage Foundation is a growing archive. We can't match to the National Film Archive, but we are growing, which is woefully inadequate given how prolific our film industry is and the amount of film heritage we have lost. Film heritage preservation should be taken up on a war footing, with each filmmaking state having its own archive, and the development of course to train film archivists who can take the mission forward and be provided viable career opportunities in this field. Before we move ahead, I would take a few minutes to tell you about Film Heritage Foundation and our activities and our future plans. We started the Film Heritage Foundation in 2014 in a response to the fact that we have lost a colossal amount of our film heritage and continue to lose so. Our objective was clear: to create awareness about the urgent need to preserve both filmic and non-filmic material, to train and indigenous resources of film archivists and restorers, to develop educational programs for children, sensitize them to the unique language of cinema, to build a world-class film archive and exhibition center. We've conducted now 3 major film workshops in Mumbai. We did another one in Pune, where we went to train there. We went to the south, where we had, thanks to Kamal Hassan, we did training program there. Our next big workshop is in Kolkata in November, where we will do hands-on training on film, digital restoration, sound restoration, and also paper and photographic conservation, which is what, over 3 years, we have introduced over 150 individuals to the best practices of film preservation. We have witnessed a change in the attitude of the film industry. We have seen a change in the government policy with the start of the National Film Heritage Mission. State governments like Kerala, Karnataka, and West Bengal are working to set up their own film archives. And thanks to Sri Lanka's participation in all our workshops, a movement was started to save their film heritage. And we are proud to say that they are on their way to build a new film archive with our help. While we continue to work on this, meantime we've continued to build up our own film and non-film archive. We have a growing collection of scripts, posters, lobby cards, song booklets, photographs, other memorabilia. We have an expert conservator who trains and oversees our staff. We have developed our own cataloging system. We have custodians of several important archives: P.K. Nair, Kedar Sharma, A.R. Kardar, J.B.H. Wadia, Shyam Benegal, Saeed Mirza, V.K. Murthy, Pran, Kundan Shah, Aruna Raje, many others. FHF has a growing collection of 35 and 16mm and 8mm films of personalities like Amitabh Bachchan, Shyam Benegal, Govind Nani, Kumar Shani, Vishal Bhardwaj, Maniatnam, Bhimsen Khurana, Onir, Sumitra Bhave, and Sunil Suktankar. We're the only people who can do professional film cleaning in terms of film repair, and we have developed, in terms of education, we have developed a unique program for workshops for children called Do You Speak Cinema, that teaches them about the evolution of cinema and its unique language. We have conducted these workshops at schools, museums, and other cultural institutions. We've also published 2 books, From Darkness into Light, and P.K. Nair's book which is called Yesterday's Film for Tomorrow. Our future plan is, of course, the 4th edition of the Film Preservation and Restoration Workshop in Calcutta. We are building a new film vault. We are expanding non-filming archive, but our vision is to build a world-class center for moving image that will be a hub for cinema, including film vaults, non-film archive, exhibition spaces, film festivals, screenings, and regular training initiative. Amit ji has been supportive of this project, and we have to make this vision a reality. Saving our cinematic heritage requires passion, commitment, and funding. We require the support of the film industry as well as the corporates and the public to support this neglected cause and help us save India's cinematic legacy for posterity. India, has a singular cinematic legacy that is endangered. What is lost, we need to find. What is there, we need to restore. What we create, we need to preserve. It's time we recognize cinema as a national treasure, one that must be saved and protected. Thank you very much. Yeah, sure. Sorry? Yes, of course, it can be. What we were talking about is the films which were shot in celluloid need to be preserved in celluloid. Films which are shot in digital have to be preserved in digital format. And digital, the way of digital, the whole issue of digital is that it's constant, changing. It's constantly changing. So you have to, there is no fixed formula which has come up till now, which we can call is the definite way of preserving in digital format. But what we can say is that there is a sense of preservation, but you have to constantly updating, changing, moving, keep checking on that.
Now you prefer an analog technology, digital technology, both mixture?
Sorry?
You prefer digital technology?
No,
analog films, mixture?
No. I think as a preservationist, if you ask me as a filmmaker, I prefer analog. If you ask me as a preservationist, I prefer both, because I have to look at what is happening today. Same way, today there was a visitor at my archive, and I was showing him, I'm also collecting Govinda posters. I'm also collecting Jacqueline Fernandez, I may have a public opinion about, as a filmmaker, what I like. So it's important that I think with the latest technology which is changing, you have to constantly adapt and constantly go with it. Yeah.
Good evening.
Yeah.
I'm a student from Center for Heritage Management. So I have actually two questions. So one of them is, how do we decide and who actually decides which films need to be saved and which do not? Because not all heritage is meant to be saved and preserved.
Yeah, the problem is that we've lost so much. There's nothing much to be saved. We're trying to save as much as whatever we can get hands on. Joy is here, Rinki ji is here. We've been having conversations for 10 years. Yeah, maybe more than 10 years. I think what is important is, at this stage, is to save everything possible, I would say, right since 1990. That's very crucial, because we have lost so much of 1990. While the digital is another constant problem, because you're shooting at every minute, every second, the amount of material. You see, that is going to have another flux of problems, and we haven't reached there. We haven't understood the digital technology, actually. And that's what is going to make it very complex, because you're not realizing when you're uploading, when you're putting it up there, you go back and see 15 years later, they may not be there. So we have to first look at what we have, and I think at this moment, digital is causing us a lot of headache and a lot of problems, and we haven't figured that out, while analog, there's very little left. And so we need to preserve every bit of analog, what is available.
And my second...
Cannot Bollywood play an important role in preserving such old films? Bollywood,
Well, that's the answer I'm also searching for, sir. I hope you can... Bollywood is... Rinki ji. Yeah, no, that's the really sad part. In fact, the fact is, and I want to be, I have lots of friends here, lots of people here. I have probably met everyone and everyone possible. People didn't really understand what I was doing, because they thought that maybe I want to sell everything off and make money and do all that kind of stuff. one of the things is that they haven't really understood preservation and restoration. One big problem, it was like a ABCD, was when you talk about films, every answer leads to Bollywood. While it's a whole churn of audiovisual medium. So within Bollywood, I think as far as they don't have to pay, and that's the constant problem I have with my wife, Tisha, who I keep bringing back films and saving it, and she says, who's going to pay for these films? Where are you going to keep it? So I think it's a real big issue for us that Bollywood hasn't really recognized the fact that these films which are lying there, especially with the families where it's lying now, if they're not lying at the National Film Archive, I'm talking about the films which are lying with them, are going to not last very long. And so much is lost. Not many families care about it. That's sadly. And we are constantly sort of convincing, battling, trying to talk them through it, that please save it. Even if there is, we are talking to at least 3 or 4 big producers right now. We've had several meetings. They have these negatives stored in the storehouses. We're seeing the conditions. We're seeing it deteriorate. There was a nitrate material which we got, which we were supposed to get within a span of 3 weeks, because nitrate deteriorates so quickly that it went away in 3 weeks. And the time we took to convince them, by the time they decided, okay, to take it and you do something about it, it was gone. Because films are chemically built. Unless they're kept in the correct humidity, correct air conditioning, they're not wound properly. If they are looked after, they have to be treated like your own children. The way you treat your children, the films, the cans you open, you should feel the pleasure of opening a can. I used to do it with my grandfather's room when I used to open the Chaplin films. I used to get the smell of that film. And I've never given that up. Every time I see a film can, I get so excited like a child that I want to open and see it. That's it. So that's and some of my spare time goes in trying to find that. But Bollywood hasn't really reflected on that. Yeah. Well, that's a film school. They're not no, that's a film school. The FTI is a film school where I went. So they're not into film preservation. NFAI is into film preservation. Yeah. Yeah, Rinki ji, you on this? Right. No, it is made. It's made. What we have done is, Rinki ji is asking about, what about the black and white raw stock? And that's exactly the reason. Now, Kodak has reopened themselves back at Film Lab. The preservation stock material is available now. You can process your film. You can even scan it. And just the printing is something which we are still figuring out. But believe me that since we had that conversations and thing, many producers cameramans have come who want to shoot on film. They want to experience. And lots of them want to shoot on film and do post-production on digital, because film has a certain way of look which they want to aspire to get. Yeah.
So as far as this funding, when raw stock is given to the lab, they charge excise duty.
Right.
And on that excise, some part or some cess can be given to preserve these films. And second, when film is censored, so one of the prints or some can be kept with Nakar as a compulsory thing. And some cess is also charged there. Then I think funding won't be a problem.
Yeah, no, sir, answering your second question first, the National Film Archive is supposed to get the censor board. Now they deal with what is called hard drives and DCPs. So it's become compulsory to deposit a film at the censor board for anyone who wants to get a film censored. So we have to leave back that film. Those films are meant to be deposited at the National Film Archive. So as far as deposit is concerned, I think the National Film Archive has those films, or they're going to get film. The question is about looking after those films. And my big worry is that today we're still able to figure out the digital aspect of it. What about all the celluloid which is lying abandoned or lying, which has not been taken care of? I mean, we've just started an oral history program, which is part of the foundation, where we've decided that we will do oral history with 100 personalities. So I was shooting with Kamini Kaushal, who's 91 and in great form. And we were talking about her 2 productions which she did. One was Poonam, and her early films all with Dilip Kumar, with Nadia Ke Paar and all those films, if you have all seen, the conditions with Rinki ji, I mean, she went for Biraj Bahu, your screening, Rinki ji, and the conditions of all those prints and negatives are in such poor conditions that when you see it, you feel so disheartened as you compare to see a Ray Apu trilogy restored. When you see Pather Panchali restored, and it just brings you, Christopher Nolan said, it's the most modern film I've seen in my life. And the reason is that you're able to give him back that film in the way it was supposed to be restored. And when, same thing, I think V.K. Murthy told me that I don't know what people will think of my work because they're seeing it on YouTube. Can you imagine all the hard work in the way he's lit up Kagaz Ke Phool? You're judging him on a YouTube with this young generation.
But sir, labs have very good air conditioning. Only one last. Labs. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, sir, you mentioned that this is a non-profit organization, and you also said no one pays you for this. So, I'm actually quite interested to know where is the funding coming from, actually.
Well, that's a very difficult question. Well, most of the funding has been coming from me and myself. Over these years, I've been bearing the shoulder. I think, obviously, everybody's very worried about how long can I continue because it's just that I've been bearing, like personally I've been doing that. And as far as the workshops are concerned, we've had very fortunate that Tata Trust came forward and recognized. I think for Tata Trust also it was the first major step, and I want to thank Deepika Sorabji for that she understood what we were doing in terms of education of film preservation. So she came forward, and Viacom has been a regular supporter for the workshops. But in terms of the archive, it's been all personal. And friends and families and, whoever has been able to give us, we've been able to do that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. In the introduction, there was a mention about Martin Scorsese, and I remember his film Hugo, which is all about film preservation. So what was your association of this foundation with Martin Scorsese?
Yeah, my association with him went for a film called Kalpana. Kalpana, what happened about 2010 was, I think around that time, is that he was, Pandit Ravi Shankar had mentioned to him that he should look at Kalpana and just watch it for a time. And he saw Kalpana, and I think he was mesmerized with the film. And then he wanted to restore the film. He said he's never seen a film like that, which had such wonderful dances, and Uday Shankar in his peak, yes. All the gurus, Keluchand Mahapatra and the whole, and 1948. This is well after Uday Shankar, he had a school in the Himalayas, and he went down to the south to make this film called Kalpana, where Guru Dutt also was a part of that school. And when we met in Bologna, I was a bit surprised that he couldn't get hold of the film because he was trying for 2 years with the Indian government. And the Indian government was holding off to that film saying, this is part of our national heritage, but they won't do anything and won't allow it to be restored. And so at that point, I literally had to fight to get that film to Scorsese, who restored it, and we then had the screening at Cannes in 2012. And I took Amla Shankar, who's, by the way, going to be celebrating her 100th birthday in June end. So we were in for Kalpana. And that's how I realized one of the biggest philanthropists in the world who's restored over 600 films has been Martin Scorsese. And we went on to restore another film which we thought in Sri Lanka called Nidhanya by Dr. Lester James Perry's, which again needed restoration, and it was my persuasion to Scorsese to look at restoration. And since then, he's been a regular supporter of all what I do, of my workshops, and so I've received a lot of support from the West, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people here to recognize the fact that how important it is to preserve films, how important it's beyond Bollywood. Let's not just, anything to do with film should not be just Bollywood. There are spaces, yeah.
Good evening. At the outset, I heartily congratulate you for the laudable job you have done.
Thank you.
As a film lover, everybody will agree with me that you are really doing a good job. I just want to know, have you ever met Mr. Ali Bhai?
Of course, Shiraz Bhai is not here, but Ali Bhai passed away.
Yeah, I know.
And I want to just tell you that one of the first things we did was that I found that you set up an archive as a collector. I believe in film collection. I'm sure Mukherjee Sahab, even in museums, there is a collector grows on to set up something. So first thing I did was meet all the collectors possible. And I have friends like Amrit who've been helping me, and lots of people. And we are very proud to tell you that Ali Saab's archive is with us. We hold all his collections. Okay. And we've kept it in his name. So first thing we did was any collector who would give us stuff, we would name it in his name. So that the association, all his letters, all his things are lying with us, because we believe that he was a genuine archive by itself. Thank you.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
Shivi, with the superhuman effort that you put into all your work, which I feel is a passion, have you considered corporate sponsorship for funding your work? If they want to have any stake in it, have you put a thought to that?
I think that's been it's been a constant battle on that. Very interestingly, you're talking about it today. We were just talking in the car. The CSR, I've had a lot of corporate friends and things. They talk about tax rebate, and our Prime Minister is quite clever. He's made Prime Minister Relief Fund 100% tax rebate, while all of us are in 50% tax rebate. So what happens is all the money goes into Prime Minister's Relief Fund, and very little is spent on other CSR activities. And that's happened in many of the corporate organizations which were giving money on a certain cause. They had to shift without even thinking what it is, because 100% tax rebate. So when you're talking about corporate, film, like I mentioned, is the last in the ladder. Nobody thinks about film, and that's what we are fighting for. That's what we are struggling for. Art is still found its place. I think the incredible job Mr. Mukherjee has done. That today in Mumbai you have a museum like where everybody talks about it, everybody wants to be there. But in films we still need to find a place, and hopefully this talk would help us to reach that. But if you all have a corporate friend who's willing to donate money to us, here we are. You can just call us up.
Jolly good.
Yeah.
One clarification. One thing you have to understand, culture was never ever equated with other sectors. We are celebrating 70 years of India's independence. If you see the budgetary allocation for culture, I think you have to use the magnifying glass. And in most of the universities, when it comes to humanities, very little allocation, but science and technology maximum. So culture was never ever equated with other sectors, unfortunately. Within the country and outside the country, before the election, we talk about identity. And that is our identity, our diversity, our cultural heritage. It is not your infrastructure, it is not your development. Hundreds and thousands of foreign visitors coming to India not to see your infrastructure. They come to see your culture. But when it comes to culture, even we don't have a cabinet minister, cabinet ranked minister. Film, but film is an art. What is the definition of art? The best of mankind for the rest of mankind, and that is what we are talking about. That how do we preserve? And fortunately or unfortunately, we inherited so much heritage in India that every kilometer you come across heritage, and that is why we are so careless. There was no concept of conservation in 1990s. This museum, even in 2002, there was no concept of conservation. There was no conservation center at the museum. In 2004, 2005, we realized that it is the need for the museum to create little space for conservation. And conservation is like a hospital. If there is a problem, you go to hospital. Antiquities, art objects, if they have problem, they go to conservation lab. So there was no concept of conservation in the country. That is one of the reasons that today we suffered so much, because there was no concept. Sorry, now, Firoja.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So, Shivendra, and I'm going to include Tisha as well, because I know how much her heart and soul is in this project that you have undertaken. Thank you very, very much for this quite illuminating talk to the members of the Museum Society and our friends who joined us here today. You're the man I've been looking for the last 30 years. Honestly, I don't know why we never talked about it on the rare occasions that we met, but I know the feeling you feel when you see an old film. And I was really privileged. My father had a 16mm movie camera. I still have it. I've been telling my brother, get rid of it, put it on eBay. Why are we keeping this? We don't use it. I'm taking back every word I said. And I've got spools of these films, as you say, one spool over, and Dad would, first he said, no, I have to rewind, go get something to eat, go to the toilet, come back, and then the next spool would start. I'm going to be at your doorstep tomorrow morning. And I know I'm speaking a bit out of turn because I haven't consulted anyone as yet. But with the support of the CSMVS, maybe not financial, but in other ways, and definitely with the Museum Society of Bombay, we will extend you any small support to complete a big picture. And I think every small step counts. And I'm not saying I'm going to put it out on funding tomorrow morning, but we need to seriously sit and work out. I have, like you, quite a few friends who are eyeing me suspiciously from where they're sitting as to what is she saying. But it's true. I was very happy that the late Bhagwan Garg's widow, Donna Bell, has thrown open his print archives of the silent film era, and now students will have access to all the silent film era documentation that he did. And I'm sure this movement is definitely going to gather momentum. And it's ironical that Pasiana magazine has Adisha Irani on their cover this month. So there is some stirrings within the common people of India that they would like to see this huge heritage. It's tragic to see that film strips, reels and reels are destroyed for silver. Very, very sad. And I know that people like MGR and Jayalalitha, to name a few, in the position of strength that they ruled Tamil Nadu from, could definitely have made that a center over and above the National Film Archives in Pune to at least preserve their films. I'm sure many of those have also been lost. Last but not the least, I really love your logo of the Film Heritage Foundation. It's the spool, which we are trying to save, and the tiger, which we're also trying to save. So thank you very, very much for leading us through this journey. It has enlightened us a great deal, and we look forward to having you back. If not this year, definitely next year. So on behalf of all of us, please, ladies and gentlemen, a round warm of applause.